We are back. Welcome me back on the show, Mr. Chris Safety Dog Harris. Woohoo! I like that you got Safety Dog Harris. So listen, so we are going to talk about, look at that. We're on video, folks, so we didn't realize how big we look until, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you have no idea what we're talking about. Well, we just realized we ate too much chicken wings last week. So,
I mean, come on. We all know that the camera adds at least 10 pounds. Right?
I'm going to say mine adds 20.
I know. I'm sorry, podcasters, but I'm sucking in my gut. You're trying to look slim for TV.
So today we've been talking about everything from CVOR basics in this episode. We talked about CVOR basics, the very first one, and then we had the driver position of CVOR. Today we're going to talk owner-operators. So let's start with when I say independent owner-operators, people get confused, but I'm talking about somebody who has their own authority, is running their own. They obviously need a CVOR.
They've got to have a CVOR. Yeah, they've done the application form, they've written the test, they got the insurance, and they've got their truck and all the authorities that go with that.
Right. So how does their CVOR get impacted? I mean, it's the same as everybody else, right? Inspections and all that, but where do they have to be more careful with it?
I don't know that they have to be more careful, but if you think of it this way, when they go through an inspection, it's going to appear on their personal truck driver CVOR, and it appears on their company CVOR.
Okay.
So, and again, a lot of single owner operators don't understand that these infractions, they can quickly add up and put you into the level where MTO wants to shut you down.
Yeah. And insurance is one of the big issues. Someone's setting up their own, I don't know about what you recommend. I always recommend to people that if you have not been in the industry for like 10 years, you should not even be going to that level, because it's totally different than signing on with, one of the big carriers or something like that, where they take care of a lot of this stuff. You have to do your own marketing, your own accounts, all of that, right?
Well, yeah, and when you're talking about insurance, several of the insurance companies now have, I understand, changed, and they want to see you be an owner-operator working for a company for at least 3 years before they give you independent, your own company type coverage.
Right. So they want to know that you can handle being an owner-operator just
working for somebody, yeah.
Okay, so if you've had trouble as a driver, let's say you've done, I don't want to say everybody's had trouble, because a lot of drivers, you get into something, you get charged with something. It's not that you were trying to deceive anybody or break the law. A lot of the logbook fines are, you forgot to put your odometer in, and they call it log form and manners, where you get in trouble with that.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but have you ever had a speeding ticket?
Yes.
And, the reason I picked on speeding tickets, well, yeah, I've had one. Was I intentionally speeding?
Yeah.
No, quite honestly, that particular day, the last time, tell you how long ago this was, I was legally holding a cell phone to my ear.
Oh, wow, that's a long time.
So that's a long time ago. But I was talking on the phone, and I missed the sign, driver distraction, and I was in a 50-kilometer zone doing 72.
Wow, okay.
Right, so I made a mistake.
Yeah.
So we all make mistakes from time to time until autonomous vehicles take over.
Could be soon, right?
Yeah, it's going to be soon, but not in my lifetime, I don't think.
I don't know. You might live to be 100 and then that would show up.
Well, I mean, you look at totally off topic now.
Yeah, we have a way of doing that successfully.
Well, I thought if I had an extra 5,000 American when Tesla announced their truck, I was going to order one, because I really do think that is going to be the way of the future. And that truck's going to be autonomous, although I believe, at least in the very near future, it's going to require a licensed operator to be at the controls at all time, even though you won't actually be controlling the vehicle.
Yeah, we need someone to blame.
Yeah, well, the laws won't change quickly enough.
I don't think the laws will change. Well, in infrastructure, it's not. They're worried about building the trucks, but they need to build the road portion. Like, how are these going to operate? Which lanes are they going to be in? How does the truck take the ramp? All these things that are kind of normal to driving. And I can see it happening. I see it more of the call center. There's some kid on a device, like he's playing a game, and we have a city driver, picks it up, takes it to a terminal, then this truck goes out through this guy. There's a whole call center of 100 gamers, each one's associated with a truck and driving it down the road, and then when it gets to another terminal, a driver comes in and actually takes it and does the deliveries. That's how I see it in my mind, whether I'm right, wrong, or indifferent, that's how I see it. I don't see it where just drivers are going. I'm not really sure what's the whole point of drivers not driving. Is it so we can put anybody in a truck? That's not going to help us. That's not.
We already have anybody in the truck.
I know. So where's the benefit of having a driver not driving? The whole idea is that this driver has the experience and the knowledge. And as you know, when we're driving a commercial vehicle, it's not just about driving. You actually know your truck. I had this through a friend. We just had a meeting the other day, and he was saying, I couldn't understand why he was taking a driver for a road test. He says, the driver automatically wanted to put on the Jake brake. He ran with the Jake brake all the time. He says he did a good job driving. I couldn't understand why. Now, the person doing the road test, their freight is fairly light. They probably don't even need Jake brakes a lot of the time. The person they were road testing, because he told me the company he used to work for ran fuel in a train setup, A-train or B-train setup, or actually it was a straight truck with a pony trailer on it. And I said, well, that person's probably used to using the volume of the load, the liquid of the load, to drive. Because as someone who drove dangerous goods and totes and stuff in the back, it's like driving a tanker. And when you shift and you drive, you have to drive with the load. You can't, if you're trying to drive against it, you're never going to be able to. So when that liquid's kind of sloshing forward is when you're picking up gears. And it's that kind of mentality. And once I explained that, he says, oh, that's why. That makes total sense. But he didn't think to ask them because he had never driven that. So that's the driver experience. That's the driver knowledge of how to get. Could you imagine a load of liquid fuel and the driver's not doing anything and the truck is trying to pick it up? It's not going to work. I can tell you, they've done it with basic freight, but to do it with a load of liquid where that stuff's sloshing, it's not going to work, I don't think.
When it comes to autonomous, we're probably not going to agree. I do think absolutely correct that what you're talking about, the fuel and any food product that can't be put in those baffled trailers, baffled tankers, are going to be a unique problem, and they won't have that figured out at the get-go. For sure. But I do believe, there was an article I read, and I forget who wrote it. They said when we become fully autonomous, they believe that 95% of crashes will be eliminated. So when the computers are doing all the operating of vehicles, and this is both commercial and private, cars, private passenger vehicles, that the computer is going to fail far less times than a human. And I do believe that it will be less. Whether it's 95% less, I don't know what that will be. But certainly computers, I think, make fewer problems. But here's the issue that I do have. Until we get the security of computer systems down pat, where we know they can't be broken. Can you imagine your fuel truck being stolen, for instance, and now being used as a weapon and driven into a building? All kinds of different things.
Yeah, that's possible right now, And the other, really, I lost my train of thought, which is normal. Okay, that's where I was going. You ever had your computer update?
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens when it updates right at the time when it's? I know my car here. If I'm in my spot, it updates, and then it doesn't click in until I hit the road. So if I've got my radio up loud and I've been listening to Sirius or something, and I turn out, all of a sudden it comes And then when I get to the light, which is just a couple streets away from us, it blocks that signal at that light. Like if I'm sitting at the light, I can't listen to my radio. I can move a foot and it'll come on. So you have those kind of problems with computers. How do you stop that? It starts updating right at a time when you need it to do its thing. I mean, I'm not against them by any means, and I agree with you. I think they're coming for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure we're ready for it as humans. And as far as getting people into the industry, why are we looking for drivers if we have autonomous trucks? Like, why are we even bothering to? Why all the trucking schools are going to go out of business? Because you don't need to know.
They will. Well, I don't think they. It depends on,
because I've got lots of friends that have trucking businesses.
Well, first of all, because a truck lasts so long right now, 25 years, autonomous trucks are really not available today. So we're looking 25 years down the road at least. And will legislation be what it is today? Because right now, an airplane has the computer stuff in it and has the capacity to take off, fly, and land itself with no human intervention.
Right.
But a pilot has to be there.
Two of them.
One has to be in the
on the size
cockpit.
of the airline, of course.
One has to be in the cockpit at all times in case there's a computer malfunction. That's the type of thing that I do see for trucking. Trucking company owners will be hating that because one of the things that they want, the largest single cost of trucking is the driver.
Yeah.
And if they can get their truck to operate 24 hours a day instead of 14 or 16, they're going to be happy.
Yeah, but then again, I don't know.
How do we get on this?
Yeah, we got to get off this because we actually have an episode planned out. But I think it's a really interesting topic, and maybe we should just forgo the episode, but let's not. Let's stop that because the whole training regimen is going to be different. The inspection process is going to be different. Everything's going to be different with autonomous.
Well, and think of it this way. I started to laugh. First of all, I was very concerned when I read that story about 95%. I've got a lot of friends that work for insurance companies, and I thought, oh my God, the upheaval.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden the underwriting department gets slashed. Claims, if it's true that 95% of claims are away, well, of course, your claims department gets slashed. The body shops that fix the bent metal, they get devastated.
Yep.
And there's, I forget what they're called, but the body shops that fix you and I if we're involved in a crash.
There's no body shops fixing you and I. It's called the gym.
Okay, but they get devastated. And then I did start to laugh a little bit as I thought about all the lawyers that could potentially be without lawsuits. But
anyway, let's get back onto our episode
CVOR.
Focus, because we are, you know what?
But this is some of the fun that when you and I get together, we can go anywhere.
Okay, so we were talking about CVORs and owner-operators, and we started with the actual independents. I call them independents. I know owner-operators are all
So the owner-operator that owns his own company,
authority,
has his own authorities.
Own customers, the whole ball of wax. Okay, so they're, of course, impacted. They are the registrator of a CVOR. Is that the right word? English. We're not teaching English. This is a trucking show. So now let's move on to, because I think it's pretty straightforward that they need to follow all the rules. But before we go on to that, what happens from a safety perspective? So you've got a CVOR, you've got an owner-operator. How do they upkeep their safety? Because there's safety meetings and stuff. Are they part of a CVOR?
They are not exempt from any of them.
Right.
So, of course, in episode 1, we provided the link to that 300-page manual that everybody read. And in that manual, it says you've got to have maintenance file.
Yep.
So if you've got a tractor and a trailer, that's 2 different maintenance files that you need to be keeping and updating. You've got to have a driver file.
Yep.
If you are going to the U.S., you've got to be part of the drug testing consortium, all that kind of stuff. All those rules are still there for one truck as they are for 1,000 truck fleet. Okay,
so the independent is a trucking company, so they're in there. So let's talk about an owner-operator leased out with a carrier. How does that affect them?
The CVOR for the carrier greatly affects the individual whether it's an owner-operator or a driver, because if that carrier has a shitty CVOR, all of a sudden you're getting more inspections. Okay. You're pulling into a scale, and in the States, it's really clear. They actually have a scoring system. I understand in Ontario, I was told that they too have a system where when you pull into the scale, it's either in the scale house we're talking about, where the officer's watching, a green light, an amber light, or a red light. Yeah. In the States, they have a scoring system, and it's called the inspection selection system. Right. And so the officers are told whether this is a problem carrier, an average carrier, or a really good carrier right in the scale. Yeah. So if I'm a driver...
They get it going by. Yeah. A lot of them are on that, depending on the size of the company, they don't even have to pull in if they're a good standing carrier and all of that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, why, and this is where it frustrates the hell out of me, why wouldn't an owner-operator want to work for that carrier, the one with the great record, so he gets inspected less? Because we just talked about how humans can make mistakes. If I'm doing a vehicle inspection, I can miss something. And it's an error. It's not something purposeful. I just made an error. Never mind for some drivers who want to cheat. But why would you not want to work for that great carrier? That's who I want to work for. Then the chances of me paying out a $350 ticket, which if you think about it, $350, how many miles do you have to run to generate $350 after tax?
If you're being paid $1 a mile, you have to run 350 miles.
Well, that would be an owner-operator. Right. But so out of that owner-operator's buck, what does he have to pay for? His insurance, his fuel.
So if you're a driver, you got to pay double that. Or you got to run double that.
Yes. Well, I mean, we're truck drivers. Let's use 50 cents a mile. Okay? It's easy calculation. I don't think many guys are getting paid 50 cents a mile, but it's an easy calc. So if I got a $350 ticket, I got to run 700 miles.
That's right.
Well, how many days work is that? Yeah. That's at least a day and a half.
That's right.
And that's before tax. Yeah. So you got to do it after tax. Maybe it's 2 days of work you just donated to some government.
You just turned to Chicago for free.
Like, WTF. I know you told me I'm not supposed to swear, but WTF. Why am I working? And especially here in Canada, we work long enough for our government. If you look at every fine as being an extra tax, you just worked longer. You donated more. Thank you.
So is it like where if they're an owner operator, they're leased on, but now they have they get an inspection done, but they own the truck. So do the points show up against the CVOR? Is there a CVOR for the owner operators specifically, or is it under the carrier CVOR?
If they're running for a carrier that has their operating authority, so
it's whoever has the operating authority.
Right. So the carrier, in this case, most companies have their own operating authorities. You lease on through a contract. You put the name of their company on your door, even though you own the truck. Right. The points for any violations, CVOR violations, go against the carrier. Mm-hmm. They will show up on the driver's personal CVOR. Right. But he may or may not have his own CVOR company thing, which he shouldn't. You don't want... I've seen that happen too, where guys get confused. Girls get confused, but guys get confused.
Okay, so it's going to show up. Whoever's authority you're running under is who the CVOR is going to be with. Easy peasy. So now, at what point does that become a problem for? Is it a problem just like a driver, where it's just they can't lease on with somebody, or does it go a step further because they own the truck? Does it affect things like financing, purchasing?
Not that I'm aware of. No. Okay. Because there's no record of it. Right. It's not against you. When you're financing a truck, they don't ask you for your license and all that kind of stuff.
Right. But when you're when you go to, if someone pulls up, like if you go to lease on with a carrier, they treat it the same as if you're a driver of that CVOR. So they're going to pull up your CVOR, and they're going to see that you've got an out of service or a logbook violation or something like that. And they're going to weigh that as to whether they want to take on that liability and hire you or send you down the road to the next carrier, right? So
you used an interesting word there, liability.
you're one of my insurance friends. That's why.
Well, it is a liability, and this is what some truck drivers don't understand, that every violation, many drivers can't understand, oh, come on, I was just running a little hard. And they often use the excuse, and I say excuse, and I know sometimes it's the truth, that if I didn't do that for that carrier, I was going to get fired. Yeah. So I ran for that carrier, even though, and I looked for a better carrier, and you're it, and now I'm here applying. Well, when I was a recruiter, I knew which one of those carriers out there was the riffraff, and if I believed the driver, then I did bring him on board, even though he may have had not such a good record. Right. Now, he was going to be closely supervised and monitored, and he better perform well, because I put my ass on the line for him, basically.
Right.
But, your record follows you. And so if you're working for, I was going to say SHIT company, but Bruce yelled at me and said I can't swear.
We prefer you not. You can, but we prefer not to. It's been done.
So somebody has to spell, But if you're working for a terrible trucking company and their CVOR is bad, and fortunately, you've got a wife and a family to support, you may be there for a few months if you made that improper choice to hire on with them. While you look for another carrier, especially owner-operators, it takes a lot longer to switch carriers than it does a truck driver.
Plus, you have the downtime, the equipment downtime, right? So just switching a carrier, you're looking at 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what you have to go through. So that's lost time running, and you're probably more expenses.
That's why,
depending on what you're doing.
As an owner-operator, you've got to make the choice who you lease on with a lot more forethought and planning, because they've got to be a great company.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, it takes, I think, minimum of 2 weeks and up to 4, like you said, in order to switch companies. Why would you want to lose 4 weeks' pay once a year?
Yeah. So what's you're more working with a lot of the carriers. What is the how often are they pulling their drivers' CVORs?
It depends on whether they listen to me or not.
So when we say pulling their driver's CVOR, which means that, okay, so let's start there before we get into how often you do it. How does a company check a driver's CVOR?
That part's really easy. It's all computerized. You can apply for it. You pay for it all online, and it gets downloaded. How often? The Highway Traffic Act now says, hey, Bruce, can I borrow your car? I just want to go to Tim Hortons. Right?
And I say, go ahead. Yeah, right. Let's take yours.
Okay. And the reason Bruce, I hope, said, no, we'll take yours. What happens if I'm driving your car and I don't have a license and we get stopped?
We are in a lot of trouble. My car gets impounded. I'm not a happy camper. You get pummeled to a beam.
Okay, so your car gets impounded. The same rule happens with commercial vehicles. But in a commercial truck, we have a little thing here. It's 48 hours.
Right.
If we can prove that we can assure the Crown that within the last 100 days, that you had a driver's license, a truck driver's license that was appropriate for the vehicle, then the truck will not be impounded. And we have 48 hours to prove that. So I said 100 days. So what I tell carriers is that you want to pull the MVR you want to pull one of the abstracts every 90 days.
Okay.
Right? And here's the whole schedule. You have an insurance renewal time. Insurance renewal, they want to have your truck driver's abstracts, or MVRs.
Okay.
So if you pull that 60 days before insurance renewal, that satisfies the insurance company. And then 90 days after that, you want to pull the CVOR.
Okay.
Right? And then 90 days after that, which would be 6 months after the initial one, you pull the MVR again, and then you alternate. So every 90 days, you're pulling one abstract or the other. Because they both say licensed on it. They both say what class of license. They both say that, the important part, you are licensed.
So we're not talking a suspension. Somebody gets caught driving a commercial vehicle, and I'll just throw this in because so when someone is driving a commercial vehicle, if they've been suspended, yet they had within the last 100 days, that doesn't affect, that's not the same as if, right? You understand what I'm saying? So
No.
Okay, so all right, so I'm a driver. Didn't want to tell my boss that my license went under suspension for whatever reason.
That happens.
And I'm still driving the truck as if I was licensed last week.
Right.
But really, I'm under suspension. I get into either an inspection, hopefully not an incident, but I get into an inspection, found out that my license is suspended. Does the vehicle get impounded? Or is it follow into what you're saying?
The carrier then has 48 hours to show the jurisdiction that pulled you over, because this could be the police or it could be a scale.
Yeah.
They have 48 hours to show that within the last 100 days, they had proof that you were licensed. Okay. If they can't provide that proof, now the truck and the cargo and the trailer are all impounded. Oh. And MTO doesn't want the cargo, especially if it's perishable. Yeah. So now you have to incur the cost of sending another tractor trailer out, offloading the trailer, and it gets
silly at that point. All right, so every basically every 90 days,
right.
A record is being pulled, whether it's your commercial CVOR or the driver's license, right?
Unfortunately, the way you said it is the way I would like it.
Oh, that's not the way it happens? Okay.
In the larger companies, yes, because there are programs out there. The OTA has one, and there's at least one competitor that I know of, that every 90 days, or every month, actually, they're telling the carrier, yes, this driver's licensed, and here's the class of license.
Okay.
And that's like $2 a month per driver. What I'm suggesting is for the smaller carriers, it's spending a little more money, but you're getting a lot more information by actually getting the records.
Okay.
This other service just says, hey, the driver's licensed.
Yeah.
But it meets the minimum for the Highway Traffic Act so that the truck doesn't get impounded.
Okay. So owner-operators, can they do this on their own? If they own the truck, they're licensed on the carrier, can they pull their CVOR?
Yes, they can pull their personal CVOR.
Would they need to? Maybe they don't need to. I don't know.
Well, hopefully the carrier, if I'm an owner-operator, I should know whether my license was suspended or not.
Yeah, I guess so. But a lot of it, depending on how the carriers or how the owner-operator's licensed on, they are sometimes paying for their own insurance, or they're through the company plans. And so
I just got confused.
I know, so this is why my listeners are confused.
Yeah, well, no, when you said owner-operator, I was thinking of the single guy that had his own authorities.
Okay.
So does he have to pull his license?
Okay, so let's go there. Yeah, because, I was actually talking the other one. But now that you brought me back into point, this is why Chris is here.
So no, that's how I understood the question.
Okay. So should they, if they own their own authority and they're running maybe their 1 or 2 trucks, should they be pulling their own?
If they're running 2 trucks, absolutely, because they need to verify that, assuming it's not an autonomous, that the other driver has a license. So they got to be pulling his for sure, because this is what happens. If you forgot to pay a speeding ticket, and this happens, especially in the States, where truck drivers, for some reason, believe, and the excuse is always, well, I gave it to the carrier to pay, and I assumed the carrier paid it. And here it is 10 years later, all of a sudden, you're put out of service because there's an unpaid ticket somewhere in the States. Where I used to work, we had the record of 32 years was the oldest unpaid ticket that we hadn't heard of. I'm sure somebody else can beat that record. But so now you're put out of service because of an unpaid fine. That's huge. Well, in Ontario, it's a little different, but our licenses can be suspended for not paying our tickets, including parking tickets, for not paying it may not be spousal, but for sure child support. Yeah. If we're in that, there's a lot of different ways that we can get our ticket or our license taken away.
So the general rule is at least every 90 days, and preferably monthly if you can do that? Or
Well, I don't think most carriers need to incur. If they want to sign up for the OTA's program of $2 per month, I think it is per driver, and I'm not selling it because I'm not even sure about it.
Yeah,
that's one way to do it.
Yeah, there's a multiple other programs that are out there too. Yeah. We've had some on the show, so there's lots of places to find that.
Okay, because I don't know the other ones by name.
One is TruckRight. They were a sponsor.
Right.
They have it through their system.
I should know that.
No, there's a few of them there, and I know ISB.me also has a similar program. So there are programs out there for those who want to go there. I don't want to promote any one company over another because.
No, and that's not the purpose. The thing here, for most of my carriers that I work with are 25 to 50 trucks or 10 to 50 trucks. They don't join the OTA, and I don't understand why they're not availing themselves of the services like the Me's and the TruckRights of the world either, because there's huge value in those services. Yeah. If they're not going to do it, then they need to be pulling all their drivers' abstracts every 90 days.
Right.
Simple as that. You had to get in front of the camera there, didn't you?
I did, to make sure it didn't go off or you'd be in dark light. Don't worry. For those of you who are wondering what we're talking about with a camera on a podcast, we are videotaping this, so you can actually see this on YouTube as well if you want to see what Chris and I look like. We're just drinking vodka out of these glasses.
I was going to say,
cheers. Actually, it's only water, but vodka would be an interesting episode. We'll do that in the future. That's a good one for the balcony balcony program. Anyway, okay, so the CVOR, does it affect the lease agreement of a carrier? Yes or no? I guess it's from a hiring standpoint. It does?
The personal truck driver CVOR certainly affects the hiring, yes.
Okay. So you may not be able to get leased on with a carrier if your CVOR is
questionable
CVOR. I like the way you said that. Okay, we are going to end this one here. If you're an owner-operator, if you're driving at all, the CVOR is basically gold, right?
Your 3-year abstract and your CVOR are your ticket to continue to work.
Yeah.
If they're not in good shape, you're going to be out of a job.
I like the way you ended that, so we're going to end it right there. And then we're coming back to talk about CVORs versus SMS system for the next episode. So stay tuned.